Hi there, my name is Hollie Grant and I'm an advanced pre- and postnatal fitness specialist and founder of the Bump Plan. Now today I'm going to be talking a little bit about some of the things we might need to think about when it comes to movement and physical activity after we have had a cesarean. Now, it used to be that we would advise women to wait around 6 weeks after they'd had their babies to start any form of exercise or physical activity. We now know that actually those guidelines are really outdated and in no way helpful, because if you already have a child, you'll already be moving your body much earlier than 6 weeks. But also, if anyone has ever had their 6-week checkup at the doctor's, you'll know that actually a lot of that checkup is really around your baby. You might not have your stitches looked at, you might not be assessed, and actually exercise and physical activity might not even be mentioned in that checkup. But there's also a lot that we can do in the first few weeks post-cesarean that can really help us speed up our postnatal recovery. So some of those things that we can do. Ideally, in our first few weeks after a cesarean, we want to definitely prioritise rest. So we don't want to be overdoing things, but there are some things that we can do even when we are sat on the sofa or feeding our babies, even if we're super tired. So the first thing, breath work. Now I will be doing a separate video all about breath work, but essentially during pregnancy our breath can change quite dramatically. We can end up with quite a shallow breathing pattern, which can also make us feel quite anxious. Postnatally, really spending some time learning how to breathe efficiently again can not only calm us down and fire up our rest and digest system, but it can help us stimulate the muscles of the core just naturally by breathing effectively. Number 2, pelvic floor work. Again, I'll be doing a separate video all about this. But even though we've had cesareans, we still need to do our pelvic floor work. For the length of our pregnancy, our heavy uterus has been bearing down on our pelvic floor muscles. So postnatally, even though we've had cesareans, we do need to be thinking about sending some energy, focusing on that pelvic floor and getting it back to being very functional. So that's something that you can do as soon as you feel ready to do it. Number 3, deep core exercises. Now this does not mean doing loads of crunches, definitely not. But what we can start to do is stimulate our deepest core muscle, our transverse muscle or our TVA, and that wraps around our core like a corset. And it's the muscle that we feel if we almost imagine sort of scooping in our lower tummy a little bit, almost like we're doing up some tight jeans. Or we can imagine almost the hip bones drawing towards each other. It's that muscle that is activated when we visualize that. That muscle stretches during pregnancy, understandably. And so postnatally, as soon as you feel ready, you can start thinking about activating that muscle slightly. Now, with all of these recommendations, I just want to say that it really is important that these feel comfortable for you. So actually what the guidelines are is that as soon as you feel ready to do these things, you can. Another one I really want us to think about is gentle stretching. So if we're spending a lot of our time like this, whether we're breast or bottle feeding, or because of our scars, we find that we're stooping over because we're cautious, might find that we feel really, really achy and stiff. So gentle stretches that feel good for you will also be really helpful. Now, essentially, what we're talking about here is what I like to call the recovery phase. So those first 6 to 8 to 12 weeks, maybe at a push, where you don't quite feel ready for more formal forms of physical activity, but there are things that you can do. And in that recovery phase, it's really important that you are listening to your body and that it feels okay for you. When you start to feel ready to move on to maybe slightly more advanced movements or more formal types of exercise, I have done another video about what to consider before you do that. And essentially what we're aiming to build up to is around 150 minutes of moderate intensity physical activity and 2 strength-based routines as part of that during the week. So we want to build back up to being functionally fit. But in those first few weeks, when and you're not really feeling ready to move on to what you were doing before, you can stimulate the pelvic floor, stimulate the deep core muscles, start to think about your breath, do some gentle stretches, and things like walking are another great alternative to help you get out and about. So I hope you found that helpful. They're just some things that you can start reintroducing as soon as you feel ready, but do listen to your body and also remember to rest. I hope you found that helpful. Again, I'm Hollie Grant, and I'll see you in another video very soon.